Lee Sharpless disappeared on Sunday, August 23, 2009. When a person disappears without a trace, often the most critical information is hidden in their actions and words from the days before they vanished. Toni Lee Sharpless's last known whereabouts may hold the clues to what happened to her. A nurse and mother struggles to put her demons behind her.
She's trying to further her education. She has a daughter to come home to.
When a night on the town brings unforeseen consequences,
that's when the situation just turned crazy.
Toni Lee Sharpless drives into the night.
I keep thinking, is she okay? Is she in her right mind? Because I don't know where she's at.
But where has she gone?
They did locate a number of cars under the water there.
Or is she being held against her will?
I got a flash, and I yelled at the television. She's very much alive.
When Toni is not at work, she spends most of her time at home, caring for her 12-year-old daughter. Toni became a mother when she was 17 years old. She has always been extremely devoted to raising her child.
When Toni got pregnant, we never really discussed whether she was too young or not. She just said she wanted to keep this child, and she said, I will do anything that I have to do to support this child.
Between being a mother and working full-time, Toni keeps very busy. But Toni didn't always have such a good handle on things.
The first time that Toni had a breakdown, she was approximately 19 years old, 19 or 20. She called me at home. She said, I can't stop crying, Mom. I don't know what's wrong with me. And that's when the first time she had went into the hospital.
Over the next several years, Toni is repeatedly hospitalized. But the doctors are unable to diagnose her condition.
When she would have the crying spells, it could last a day, maybe 3. It was very hard for me as a parent to see her going through this, and I didn't know what to do. She would drink occasionally. I think that was to self-medicate. There was one incident where she totaled her car. After that accident, she was adamant. She said, I will never do that again.
In 2004, during another hospital stay, the source of Toni's problems is finally identified. She is suffering from a bipolar disorder. With a diagnosis in hand, Toni is prescribed medication and she begins to take control of her life. In 2005, she enrolls in nursing school, and she and her daughter move in with her parents in Downingtown, Pennsylvania.
She was working full-time and going to school full-time. She was very determined. If she wanted something, she set a goal, she went for it, and she made sure she completed it.
Toni finds work immediately upon graduation. It seems her darkest days are behind her, until again, she has another relapse.
In March of 2009, she was having like manic attacks and depression. Manic is where the person doesn't sleep, they just constantly go, 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 and they just talk, talk, talk. And then they start to imagine things because they're not getting this proper sleep that they should be getting.
Toni asks her family to take her to a rehabilitation center where she can be treated for her psychiatric problems. Crystal Johns, an old friend of Toni's from high school, also accompanies her.
When I took her to the rehab, I didn't recognize that person. That wasn't a person I was familiar with.
Toni stays at the hospital for 3 weeks, but when she is released, Toni has a new prescription and appears much improved.
Toni's behavior was like night and day from the day that I took her in to literally just a couple weeks later when she came out. You could tell whatever they did in there with the therapy and the proper medication definitely was going to be a huge help for her.
I think that she felt that the doctors had finally got it right. I felt very relieved because I thought, well, now she's on the right track and hopefully this will, stay the same for a long period of time. She was like a whole new person.
But Toni's new treatment plans require some hard changes in her lifestyle.
because she did like to drink, and you're not supposed to drink on that kind of medication. So in order to avoid going in those types of places, I would just do things with her that were different, that didn't involve that.
Six months after being released from rehab, Tony is back at work. On the morning of Saturday, August 22nd, she finishes a night shift at Lancaster General and stops by her sister Candy's house on her way home.
She came to my house that morning right off of work. She helped me clean and spent some time with my kids. We sat outside on my front porch and was talking for a while. She ended up leaving to go pick up her daughter, get showered and ready. We were all going to go shopping.
Her friend Crystal joins them. She hasn't seen Tony since the night she took her to the hospital.
She seemed like she was back on the ball. She seemed like the Tony I know. Or like I would call her sister Tone Bone. She seemed like the Tone Bone we knew. Like nothing was ever wrong.
The women spend the entire day together catching up. As the evening approaches, Crystal invites Tony to go out with her that night.
While we were shopping, I received a phone call from a friend of mine, Matt Green, and he said he was in the area and would I like to hang out later on that evening? Which I then asked Tony, would you like to join me? Because I wanted to spend time with her as well.
Although Tony hasn't slept since she worked the night before, she excitedly accepts Crystal's invitation.
Oh, she never went to sleep right away. And if she knew she was going to be off that night, she would stay up all day long and then go to sleep that night. She goes, I haven't been out in a long time. So she got dressed, got ready to go, and as she was leaving, she gave me a hug and a kiss.
Her sister Candy is also invited, but she declines the invitation and can't help but feel some concern for her sister.
I was kind of surprised that she was going out because I knew that she was trying to steer clear of clubs, but I knew that she hadn't been out in months, like probably a good half a year at that point, to where, you know, she wanted to go out, have a good time, spend time with her friend, and just go dancing.
I spoke to Matt, and he said he was in Old City at the G Lounge, and we agreed to meet him there since it wasn't too far from where we were.
When Tony and Crystal arrive at the G Lounge, they receive special treatment. Crystal's friend Matt is the brother of Willie Green, a professional basketball player on the Philadelphia 76ers.
When we went to the G Lounge, we got into the VIP. We just had a couple of glasses of champagne and danced. Tony, she was on the dance floor more than I was. We mingled, we met a lot of people, a couple celebrities, and that was it. We had a good time. It was almost like the most perfect night ever. Almost.
As another round of drinks is ordered, Tony doesn't seem to have any trouble keeping up with the others.
We were definitely drinking Don P. I prefer Grey Goose and pineapple. We had a few of them. We took a couple shots the waitresses were bringing around. Tony, she just seemed great. We had such a good time, and that's all we kept talking about, is how fun of a time we were having, and we didn't want it to end, and the time came too quick.
When the club closes at 2 a.m., Willie invites the group to his house in Gladwin, a suburb outside of Philadelphia.
And I discussed it with Tony, and she was like, yeah, because we weren't ready for the night to end, so we decided to go.
At Willie's house, the socializing continues with a drinking game and then a late-night dip in the swimming pool.
Everybody was outside but Tony. When I dove into the pool and I came up, they said, your girlfriend is in there yelling something. So I immediately went into the house and said, what's going on? And I didn't really understand what was wrong with her, but I could tell that her pupils were dilated and that she was very intoxicated. I don't know if it hit her at that moment, but it was definitely time to go. Her behavior had changed.
Crystal tries to calm her friend down, but it seems that a switch has been flipped. Tony becomes very aggressive.
Everybody else came in to see what the commotion was, and that's when the situation just turned crazy. Tony came out and said things and was yelling profanities, And she went inside Mr. Green's basement and slammed the door, kicked the chair, a couple different things. I never seen Tony act this way before. I was embarrassed. I didn't understand why she was acting like this. I didn't know how to handle the situation. I thought the best situation would be to leave.
Crystal says that Willie has also had enough. He asks the two women to go, but Tony insists on driving.
She grabbed the car keys and said, "I'm driving." She was telling everybody it's her car and she was driving, and if I wanted to go home, that I would get in the car with her. They asked me, "Are you sure you want to get in the car with her?" And I said, "We came together, we leave together."
But once they are in the car, Crystal says that Tony becomes even more irate.
We got maybe 2 houses down the road, and she slammed on the brakes, and she said some things to me in reference that I was laughing with them. I just think the liquor kicked in, and she was just a little paranoid maybe. I don't know exactly what she was thinking at that point. I was confused. I was like, we're gonna go home and laugh about it tomorrow, you know? That's what I thought.
But Crystal is unable to calm Tony down. Tony orders her from the car, and Crystal finally gives in.
I just thought, let me get out the car. She'll come back for me.
As soon as Crystal steps outside, Tony speeds away into the darkness.
I never thought she wouldn't come back.
Coming up, what was happening to Tony that night?
The combination of everything may have been making her act not in her right mind.
After a long night out on the town, 29-year-old Tony Lee Sharpless seems to lose control. Her belligerent behavior gets her and her friend Crystal kicked out of a small gathering in Gladwin, Pennsylvania. Crystal is glad to be going home, but suddenly, Tony demands that she exit the car and speeds away.
She knew I didn't know these people, that we were so far from home, like 40 miles. Why would you leave me? I didn't think she was that upset, and especially not at me.
It's 5 o'clock in the morning. Crystal finds herself in an unfamiliar neighborhood a long way from home.
I could still see the guys from the party yelling for me to come back, and I was so embarrassed that I just put my hand up and said, I'm fine. I started walking towards the direction that she had went, thinking that she would come back for me. So then I called Tony's phone. She didn't answer, and I called again, and it was obvious that she had turned the phone off. It was scary, it was dark, there's no street lights, and I had no clue exactly where I was. I thought how angry I was. How could she leave me? I don't know. I just hoped that she was gonna come back for me. That was the initial feeling.
Crystal continues trying to reach Tony without luck while she walks to the expressway that they took to get there.
I sat on the side of the road, so if she came back, that I would just be sitting waiting for her. I was so far from the development that I left, I didn't even know what house I came out of. That's when the reality kicked in, and that's when I began to cry. I was scared. I was scared for my life.
Crystal is eventually able to reach a nephew who agrees to make the 40-minute drive to come pick her up. On the way home, Crystal tries calling Tony's sister Candy to tell her about their train wreck of a night.
When I got up in the morning and saw that I had missed texts and phone calls, voicemails from her, I'm like, okay, what's going on?
Candy is surprised to hear about Tony's strange behavior. She calls over to her parents' house to make sure her sister is all right. But Tony has not come home.
We thought, well, maybe her being so tired because she had stayed up so long would have pulled the car off the side of the road and taken a nap, but she would have called or texted myself, her sister, or her daughter, and she didn't do any of those.
Candy and Crystal are worried. They know that Tony hadn't slept for over 36 hours and had been drinking. They wonder if it's possible that Tony has had some sort of accident.
I called all the local prisons to see if she happened to get a DUI.
check with hospitals, things of that nature, see if there was a car accident. Nothing all day. I had tried calling Tony. I had tried texting her. No response. And being a close-knit family, I know she would have called one of us by then. So now red flags are going up. Something's wrong. Where's she at?
By nightfall, neither Candy nor Crystal has made any progress in finding Tony. Crystal can't bear it any longer and contacts the police.
I called the West Brandywine Police Station, spoke to Officer Moore. He informed me that usually a family member calls, and I said, well, her family doesn't want to jump the gun at this time, but something doesn't sit right with me. I was the last person with her. I want to know where she is.
Candy agrees to go down to the police station to file the missing persons report for her sister.
It was nerve-wracking to report her missing. I'm still at this point like, this isn't really happening. Like, I'm doing this for nothing, but if I don't do it and it really is an issue, I would feel terrible. So I just gotta file it to be on the safe side. That way we can get the word out and see what's going on.
As Officer Russell Moore takes down Tony's details, some of the information that Candy tells him gives him pause.
She did mention that Tony had had a couple cases of where she had attempted suicide, which did concern me that this could be another attempt.
Tony's family, however, stresses that Tony loves her life and has no reason to want to end it.
She's trying to further her education. She has a daughter to come home to. We're a very close family.
She was happy. She loved her job and things were going good and her medicine was working well, so she was very excited.
Still, Officer Moore wonders how the mix of alcohol with Tony's medication may have affected her.
There is some concern that the alcohol with the medication, as well as her mental health issues, the combination of everything may have been making her act not in her right mind.
Crystal is also worried. As she replays the last night over in her head, she realizes she has seen Tony in this condition once before.
The night reminded me of the time when we were checking her into rehab. She wasn't in the right state of mind. I know that Tony wasn't psychologically stable, that she had issues with that in the past, and, maybe I should have kept a closer eye on her. Maybe I shouldn't have drunk with her, But her family was aware we were going out. We went there before we left. Obviously, if we're going to a club, we're going to consume some alcohol. If that wasn't a good idea, I wish somebody would have told me. I would have babysat her more, I would try to.
Officer Moore enters Tony's personal data and vehicle description into the National Crime Information Center database. He also contacts the Lower Merion Police Department, whose jurisdiction includes Gladwin, where Tony was last seen.
Typically, the car would have been the greatest link for us in an investigation like this. If anybody stopped that car, we would have been notified, and West Brandywine would have been notified.
But Tony's car seems to have vanished just as she has. Police turn next to Tony's phone records.
I called Tony's cell phone carrier. The last contact with the cell phone tower was at 4:53 in the morning. The cell phone tower itself services Lower Merion, where she went missing. After that, we cannot tell where she would have gone.
But Officer Moore is able to identify the last time Tony used her phone, 2:57 a.m., when Tony was leaving the nightclub and on her way to Willie Green's house. It's a text message from Tony to her daughter, who had contacted her mother when she could not fall asleep.
The last thing that came off of my daughter's, Tony's phone, was a text to her daughter at 3 o'clock in the morning because her daughter couldn't sleep that night. Her mom said to her, "Honey, I'll be home soon, get some sleep." That was the last text, the last activity on that phone.
For Donna, Tony's last text message sounds more like the daughter she knows, a loving mother who is very responsible and caring. But everything else she learns about Tony's behavior that night leaves her baffled.
I couldn't believe it. I've never seen her act that way. Never. The only thing I could have thought was mixing alcohol with medication that she was on and lack of sleep.
With this in mind, Donna and her husband Peter begin driving the roads around the area where Tony was last seen.
I kept thinking, if she's that tired or if she's that out of it, she would have had to have wrecked that car. There's no way she could have made it home or anywhere else. We were looking for all kinds of signs, scraped guardrail. We were looking for like broken branches where a car might have went down, you know, in between trees and stuff. We were all over that area, but we couldn't find anything.
Coming up, have her parents finally located Tony?
If she's in the river, then she's not alive anymore. If she's not in the river, then we still don't know what happened to her. It was a lose-lose situation.
29-year-old nurse and mother Tony Lee Sharpless is missing. Overtired and operating under a dangerous mix of bipolar medication and alcohol, Tony was last seen in Gladwin, a suburb of Philadelphia that she is unfamiliar with. Her family fears that in her altered state, Tony may have driven into the Schuylkill River.
We decided the Schuylkill River needed to be searched because that was the closest place to Willie Green's home. If my daughter left there and went down to park the car, she could have went into the boat ramp because it was like approximately 5 o'clock in the morning. It was still dark. And when you're looking at water and a road and they run together, you can't tell the difference between the two of them.
When Tony's mother tells the police about her theory, they agree that the area can be very disorienting, especially at night.
Anybody who's not familiar with that section of the township, the Gladwin area, could very easily get turned around and lost, because while it is a residential area, it is heavily wooded. There's no sidewalks, and there's not a whole lot of street lights.
They also agree that the location is very isolated. If Tony had driven into the river, there would most certainly have been no witnesses.
The area is fairly desolate at night. The boat ramp is not meant to be used after sundown, so there is no reason for anybody to be down there.
However, the authorities feel that there is not enough probable cause to warrant a river search.
Our officers went down to the river and checked to see if there's any indication whatsoever of a vehicle going into the river, and we didn't find any.
Nevertheless, Texas EquiSearch, a nonprofit organization that conducts missing person searches, agrees to come to Pennsylvania to spearhead the operation. They scan the river bottom with sonar, while the Lower Merion Police Department joins the search.
The way the sonar system works is it's attached to a boat, and it scans through the water and actually takes photographs of items on the bottom of the river or on the riverbed.
As you go off the boat ramp, it gets very deep. It's about 25 feet deep as soon as you leave the boat ramp. So this is a fairly deep water operation there with very low visibility.
Despite the depth and murky water, sonar hits upon what looks like 3 cars at the bottom of the river.
We arranged for the Philadelphia dive unit to come out the next morning and to dive and to determine if they were vehicles and if they were involved, in this case, if they were in fact Tony's car.
While Donna is happy that the search is being conducted, she cannot bring herself to be there.
When they had said there were cars in there, my heart was pounding. I was home, pacing the floor. I was pacing the floor, my husband and I both.
Tony's sister Candy, however, is there, steeling herself for whatever they find.
It was kind of nerve-wracking because it was a lose-lose situation at that point. If she's in the river, then she's not alive anymore. If she's not in the river, then we still don't know what happened to her.
Before the dive team begins their work, investigators go over the river with a second, more advanced sonar. They discover much more than they had bargained for.
The total number of vehicles that were found in our section of the river was 11.
According to the police, the remoteness of the boat ramp makes it a popular spot to get rid of stolen and other unwanted vehicles.
What the dive team did was they went into the water there, and they would be able to, on a close-up view, take a look at the vehicles and get a basic description of them. In some cases, if there was a vehicle registration plate still attached, they would remove the plate and return it to us once they got out of the water. That's what happened in this case.
As the divers work to identify the sunken cars, Tony's loved ones wait on pins and needles on shore.
As they found the vehicles, they were letting me know that they weren't hers, but there was still one or two towards the end that they weren't for sure about, that they had to come back and double check on. The plan of action was to get them out of there, to get them identified for sure, you know, because even if they pulled the tag off, what if the tag was changed at that point?
Candy must wait another week for her peace of mind. The weight of the water and silt collected in the submerged vehicles makes extracting them a tricky operation. A large tow truck with a boom extending over the water is needed to do the job.
Watching several cars being drug out of the river, every car was like, I hope it's not hers.
9 vehicles are eventually removed from the Schuylkill River, none of them belonging to Tony. Although her loved ones are relieved, the conclusion of the river search without any new information to Tony's whereabouts increases their fear.
When you have that special person in your life that's missing, you feel like you're in a black hole. You can't touch the sides. You're falling and falling. There's no bottom and there's no top. You can't see, but you just continue to fall and your heart just sinks.
Coming up, police turn their attention to the last person to have seen Tony.
Everybody was asking me about drugs and what drugs was she on, and I don't do drugs. And if she was on any drugs, I didn't know of them.
When Tony Lee Sharpless goes missing outside of Philadelphia, her loved ones are stunned. The 29-year-old nurse lives a simple life, devoted to her daughter. But by all reports, Tony behaved like a different person on the night she disappeared.
She wasn't herself, because the Tony I know would have never left me on a dark road or with a house full of strangers. She wouldn't have did that.
Crystal Johns is the last person known to have seen Tony. That night, the two women had last been at the house of Willie Green, a professional basketball player on the Philadelphia 76ers.
I contacted Mr. Willie Green to see if he could shed some light on what happened. Mr. Green gave the same account of the night that Miss Johns had given.
There were never any suspects in the case. There was never any indication of foul play. There was no person of interest, really, that jumped out at us during any phase of the investigation.
Despite Willie and Crystal's cooperation with authorities, rumors of foul play begin to circulate.
Tony's disappearance received a lot of local media coverage, both on TV and also on the internet. And unfortunately, in some of this coverage, Crystal was described or was portrayed to be someone who was hiding something or who was involved in something happening to her friend.
The blog just said that me and the Greens disposed of Tony, that I'm withholding information, all types of stuff that was not true. It was almost like harassment. The one person that wants to find her friend and that took it serious from day one is being harassed.
After several weeks of negative attention, Crystal calls the Lower Merion Police Department and requests to take a polygraph test.
Crystal asked to take a polygraph. We were fairly convinced that her information was accurate. However, she wanted to do it because there was so much pressure on her that she may have had something to do with Tony's disappearance.
I passed with flying colors. I passed. I didn't lie about anything. There's nothing I withheld at all. And I went and I got something to eat for the first time in a very long time. I finally had my appetite back.
Tony Lee Sharpless has been missing for 3 weeks. After extensive searching and interviews, all leads grow cold until suddenly there's movement in the case.
On September 14th, 2009, I was contacted by the New Jersey State Police that on September 8th, their vehicle had recorded Tony Sharpless's car in the city of Camden.
Camden, New Jersey lies directly across the river from Philadelphia. It's only a 20-minute drive from where Tony was last seen.
It was the first information we had since Tony went missing that she and her car was moving. It was in the area. It was somewhere.
According to the Camden Police Department, Tony's car was recorded by a piece of technology called a license plate reader.
The license plate reader is a police vehicle that's equipped with a camera system that automatically runs vehicle registration plates through the computer system. It runs every tag that it passes, that it captures on this video system.
But the reader that recorded Tony's license plate number was in an unmanned vehicle.
Citywide searches for that car, particularly concentrated in that area.
For Tony's family, the development in Camden, a city known for its high crime areas, makes them very uneasy.
When I heard that her car was spotted in Camden, I knew something was definitely wrong. We had recently went to a concert in Camden, and she just wanted to get out of there because we know it's not a good area.
It told me that either she wasn't in that car, or if she was, she may have been in the trunk of the car, because she would never go to Camden on her own, not willingly anyway.
While friends and family believe that Tony has almost certainly met with foul play, the authorities quietly develop a second theory.
It was reported to us that Tony may have had an addiction problem earlier in her life. The fact that her license plate was red in Camden worried us, because if you knew where to buy drugs, that would be one of the areas to go.
But police are unable to determine if Tony has bought drugs in Camden before.
Everybody was asking me about drugs and what drugs was she on, and I don't do drugs. And if she was on any drugs, I didn't know of them, and I would definitely volunteer that information.
As a result of the investigation, we certainly became aware of almost all aspects of Tony's life.
I was told through her family and through her friends that Tony did have a history of drug abuse. Yes, the area where the car was seen, high prostitution, high heroin.
She suffered with some past demons, but as of the time of the incident, it appeared that she had had her life in order.
As the Camden lead goes nowhere and no new information surfaces, the search for Tony Lee Sharpless begins to stall.
It is very hard in a case like this. There's very little information here. I mean, really what we have is a girl left the township at 5 o'clock in the morning drunk and angry and was last seen by her friend. And the car, we believe, was in Camden several days later.
Across town, a private investigator hears Tony's case on the news for the first time and has a strong premonition.
For what it's worth, I got a flash of something and I yelled at the television. She's very much alive.
Coming up, a new theory about Tony's whereabouts generates hope and fear.
I know it's far-fetched to a lot of people, but in my world, that happens all off somehow.
Like many in the area, Eileen is aware of the recent bust of a sex trafficking ring in New Jersey.
Prosecutors say this man, who called himself Prince, enslaved young women and forced them into a life of hell.
Just 1 month earlier, Alan E. Brown Jr. was arrested for prostituting dozens of young women from Newark to Atlantic City.
This man is one of thousands of men all across the country who prey upon young women, anywhere from 12 to 50. And what they do is go to bus stations, train stations, nightclubs, and look for young women who seem distressed in some way.
Once they were forced into his stable of prostitutes, they were subjected to beatings, to isolation from others, to coercion. They were locked inside apartments.
He would take their cell phones and their credit cards and force drugs on them. I know it's far-fetched to a lot of people, but in my world, that happens all the time. It's the beginning of the end.
At the conclusion of her first meeting with Donna and Candy, Eileen offers her services to find Tony for free. She begins work right away to get the story of the missing nurse and mother back into the media.
I believe that she is in a weakened state. We need to get her picture out there.
Almost immediately, there are sightings of women believed to be Tony.
When that aired, by the time I got back to the office, there was a flood of calls. The first sightings were in the city of Lancaster, where Tony was a nurse at Lancaster General Hospital, and a lot of them used the phrase that she was distraught or distressed.
As Eileen follows up each lead, Tony's family waits anxiously, wondering if Tony has really been found.
There was one sighting in particular that got me anxious in Lancaster County, and that's one where the person was almost sure it was her to the point he wanted to get off the bus and go grab her. And the description of her, the description of the clothes, everything matched.
But none of the sightings lead to Tony. After 1 week, the calls from Lancaster stop. Then, another call comes in.
I got a call from a man, and he said that he drove trucks to Camden, New Jersey. And he said that he believed he saw Tony.
Over the next 3 days, there are several more reports of sightings in Camden. Because Tony's car was also seen there, Eileen thinks the chances of finding her are high. But the landscape of the area makes searching for Tony difficult.
There's a big drug trade in the city of Camden. There are sexual favors that you'll see happen right in alleys in broad daylight. You'll see drugs change hands. You'll see pimps watching very carefully, and you'll see some of the girls get very nervous about talking with me.
Tony's friend Crystal helps out with the search as well.
We went to Camden and was handing out flyers. A lot of the girls there, after a few weeks of prostitution and drugs, they probably are unrecognizable to their own family members. It's that bad.
Eileen and Crystal speak to dozens of people, but no one can definitively prove that Tony is there. Then, just as they did in Lancaster, the sightings stop and begin a week later elsewhere.
There were a couple sightings in Philadelphia. Same thing. It was always, there was a cluster up here, and then it would stop for a couple days. Many of the sightings of Tony described her being with a man, and it told me that someone was moving Tony around.
While Eileen feels strongly that Tony may be the victim of sex trafficking, the authorities on the case see it differently.
While that exists in places in this country, certainly the rarity in this area, and we never had any indication that that was a viable angle for this investigation to take.
But with little else to go on, Tony's loved ones can't help but take the theory seriously.
I think it's a strong possibility. I really do. It's real. It's in America and it's here. It's not good. It's not good. Whatever happened to my friend is not good.
I think that she is a very strong person. She's a fighter. She's a leader, and that if she had the opportunity to get away, she would do that.
Although Tony's loved ones want to believe she is alive, the possibility gives them little comfort.
If Tony did drive on 76, which went into Camden, she could have got carjacked, been drugged up, held for prostitution. We don't know at this point, but that's our theories. I keep thinking, is she okay? Is she in her right mind? Is she cold? Is she hot? Is she hungry? Is she tired? Is she...
Disappeared on September 28, 2004. When a person disappears without a trace, often the most critical information is hidden in their actions and words from the days before they vanished. Tim Carney's last known whereabouts may hold the clues to what happened to him. 25-year-old Tim Carney belongs to a religious group that worries his family.
I think they were telling him, we're your family now. You don't need your family. We're your family.
Suddenly, he vanishes on his way to morning prayers, leaving his family searching for clues.
I always wonder if he was trying to warn us about something that was happening.
The Carneys suspect Tim's religious devotion may have played a role in his disappearance.
He would never go this long without calling somebody in our family and saying, I'm okay.
Just when investigators believe Tim may be out of reach, witnesses think they have spotted him.
He seemed very tense and very nervous.
Will detectives be able to find him before it's too late?
If he had to live on the streets, I just don't see him surviving.
25-year-old Tim Carney has devoted himself to his religious life. For the past 5 years, he's been a member of a small church in New Jersey. Every morning, Tim has the same routine. Before starting his day at the New Jersey Unemployment Office, he wakes up at 5 a.m. and goes to the church's 7 a.m. prayer meeting.
He came home one weekend and said that he had joined a church, and we were glad. We grew up in church, so we thought that was good.
We stressed the fact that religion was an important part of our lives. We believe in God. We went to church every Sunday. I taught Sunday school. Tim was in my class as well as his sisters. So we were happy that religion was still a part of his life.
Tim joins the Gospel Outreach Church, led by Pastor Jim Lethbridge, and soon has a new circle of friends. His sister Megan would come to question the group's appeal.
I think Tim joined Gospel Outreach because they posed themselves as a Christian study group, people that were on his wavelength, you know, really focused on academics.
He didn't say too much, just that he was going to church and we were just happy to hear that, so we left it at that.
Tim surrounds himself primarily with Gospel Outreach members and has been living with fellow congregants since college.
He felt very comfortable there. He felt wanted and loved, and he felt at home.
While Tim had excelled in academics growing up, his bookish nature made it difficult for him to make friends when he was younger.
He was the smart kid, so people shy away from smart kids. He would be talking to adults at 12 years old because nobody else understood him. He was made fun of a lot. He just wanted to feel like he belonged to something, a group.
It was hard. It was very hard because we know he's got a great sense of humor. He's a great kid. You just got to get to know him.
Tim's passion for books eventually inspired him to write his own stories.
Tim started writing at a young age. Because he loved reading so much, it was just natural for him to just try to create his own adventures in writing.
Tim had particularly enjoyed mysteries.
His favorite was Edgar Allan Poe, and he liked to write with the surprise endings. In his briefcase, he had writing. He was writing a book.
Tim was pretty secretive with his writings. Once he felt like something was perfect, then he would share it. But before then, he was pretty protective of his writings, and he would keep them in like a briefcase.
Tim could never have known then that his own life would one day become the center of a troubling mystery. On September 28, 2004, an average Tuesday, Tim's day begins as usual. According to his roommate Roy, also a member of Gospel Outreach, Tim wakes at 5 a.m. to go to the 7 a.m. prayer meeting. But on this day, Tim's morning unfolds differently from his normal routine. His fellow church members report that Tim never arrives at morning prayers. Even before his disappearance, Tim's family is uncomfortable with the way Tim makes church activities the central focus of his life.
Whereas before he would come down and join us for church on Sunday as a family, now if he did come down, he had to leave right away to get back to the group. It was more about, you know, I got to get to Bible study, or I have to get to men's group, or I have to get to choir. It was mandatory for him to attend.
Family members worry that Tim's religious commitment is pulling him away from them.
Well, there was a big change in Tim. He didn't come around as often. He was very secretive. He wouldn't communicate with us. And that was tough because before that, we always had a good communication.
It was just really out of character for him, just not like him to miss the family function or to not call. And it was happening more and more frequently. I didn't like what was happening. I didn't like that he couldn't be with us.
Every time he had to go somewhere, he couldn't go by himself. When my sister was in the hospital, he would come down to see her, but he always had somebody else with him. And they made a statement once where it's like, well, we wanted to make sure there was a real Aunt Kathleen.
Phyllis Carney sensed a pressure on Tim to distance himself from his family
I think they don't want you to talk to anybody else outside the group, because they always say, well, don't tell anybody about us because they won't understand.
Rick Ross is consulted nationwide by families and law enforcement. He has made a career studying religious groups, including gospel outreach and Pastor Lethbridge.
In my experience, the families that have loved ones in gospel outreach have very limited communication. When a group isolates members, they do that in order to create a kind of bubble. If they can control everything that goes into the mind, they can control the mind itself. So by isolating people from family members, they create an environment in where what the group wants them to think and feel is constantly being reinforced.
I think they were telling them, we're your family now. You don't need your family. We're your family. Well, churches bring people together. They don't tear them apart.
Tim's family notices that his devotion to gospel outreach and to the teachings of Pastor Lethbridge seems to have a physical effect.
He changed his appearance. He always had short hair in college. And one summer when he came home, he had long hair and he had a ponytail. We didn't think much of it. Actually, it looked good on him. But then one Sunday, we went and sat in on a church service, and lo and behold, the minister happens to have long hair and a ponytail. And so do several other male members of the group.
But then one day he came home with short hair and surprised me. Then we saw Lethbridge right after that, and Lethbridge had cut his hair.
Gradually, Tim's parents begin to see gospel outreach as very different from the kind of church in which the Carneys had grown up.
We had gotten a phone call from parents who have a son in the group also, and they had some concerns about the church and they wanted to talk to us about it. That's when everything kind of fell into place. Things that we joked about, we thought was kind of funny, but once we started talking to these people, it wasn't funny anymore. It was serious. We know he's a smart boy. We didn't think he'd be sucked into a group that would influence him like they did.
In 2003, the year before Tim disappears, his ties to gospel outreach grow even stronger when he begins seeing a woman who is also a member of the congregation.
He came home and said he was courting. That's the word they use. I said, well, what kind of word is courting? I wasn't, you know, they don't use that word anymore. That's such an old-fashioned term that was a little strange too, I thought.
Tim's family was bewildered by his dating rituals.
They could sit next to one another, but they couldn't hold hands. If they wanted to hold hands, they had to hold a fork. She held the fork halfway, and then he would grab a fork the rest of the way. And that was their way of being with one another. They couldn't touch.
At Tim's college graduation party, his sister Megan noticed that some members of gospel outreach seemed to have more conservative customs than other couples she knew.
There was 3 people watching TV, and the couple that was supposed to have been together weren't sitting next to each other on the couch. There was somebody in between them. It seemed like none of the girls could ever be alone with their significant others. There always had to be like a person watching to make sure that they were following the rules.
When his parents bring up what they perceive as the church's strict doctrines, it becomes a source of tension in the family.
We try to avoid talking about the church because then that only goes into an argument, and then we start yelling at one another.
He was constantly trying to prove to us that it was a legitimate group, or it was a good group, or that there was nothing wrong, that everything was fine and happy. I think part of that is that he wouldn't want my mother or my father to worry. But part of that is almost as if maybe deep down he knew that some of the things that they were doing weren't how we were raised or how we grew up.
All the Carneys knew of gospel outreach was what they heard from Tim, that it was a Christian fellowship devoted to studying the Bible. Despite his family's concerns about the strict lifestyle that gospel outreach seems to require, Phyllis Carney sees Tim's relationship having a positive impact on her son.
Oh, he seemed very happy. He really did. He seemed very, very happy with her. I mean, he brought her to the family Christmas party. If he's happy, then you're happy.
But about 7 months after Tim's relationship begins, the Carneys learn some disappointing news.
One day he just came and said they had broken up, and that's all he would say. Looked like he was upset about it, but he wouldn't talk about it. And that was it.
On Saturday, September 25th, 2004, 5 months after Tim's breakup, he and his sisters Erin and Megan have dinner at their childhood home to celebrate their parents' anniversary.
We just had a nice night, family-wise. We didn't talk about the church at all.
He didn't leave early. He stayed, and he had dinner with us, and we watched a movie after, and it was like the old Tim. Being in the moment, just being with the family, just having a good time.
The last thing he did was hug me and say, "Mom, I love you." And then he left and went home.
The next day, Sunday, Megan gets together with Tim, but their time is cut short.
We were supposed to go to lunch, but I canceled because I wasn't in a good mood.
Megan sees a potential clue she may have missed, looking back on that day.
He was trying hard to convince me to go out to eat, try to, get together, and I didn't. I didn't go. And it feels awful. I hate so much that I wasn't in a good mood. He wasn't always so insistent to meet for lunch. Like, if we get together, we get together. If we don't, we'll just reschedule, no big deal. But I always wonder if he was trying to tell me something, or maybe warn us about something that was happening that we didn't know about. I always wonder about that.
Tim's request to meet for lunch would echo in Megan's mind. Just 2 days later, on Tuesday, September 28th, Tim never shows up at morning prayers and disappears. Coming up, when police find a clue, Tim's family fears the worst.
We thought foul play.
On Saturday, September 25th, 3 days before he disappears, 25-year-old Tim Carney spends the evening with his family at his parents' home in Edison, New Jersey. As he leaves, Tim hugs his mom goodbye and says he'll see her next week. The following Tuesday, September 28th, Tim gets up at 5 a.m. as usual to go to the Gospel Outreach 7 a.m. morning prayers. But Tim never appears. By 9 a.m., when Tim doesn't show up at the unemployment office where he works as a claims examiner, his coworkers assume Tim is just late. According to his colleagues, this had become common, especially since his breakup. Then, just after 9 a.m., Tim calls his supervisor to say he'll be late. But by 10 a.m., Tim hasn't arrived. Calls to his home and cell phones only reach his voicemail. The next day, the Carneys get a call every parent dreads.
His roommate Roy called and wanted to know if Tim was at our house because he didn't come home that night. Well, no, he's not here.
We called his cell phone and it just rang. No one picked up.
Alarmed, Phyllis and Ed Carney file a missing persons report with the police in Butler, New Jersey, where Tim lives. When detectives search his home, they find no indication that Tim was leaving for longer than just a normal workday. Detective Colleen Pascal is on the team investigating Tim's case.
Nothing was taken out of his home of importance. If he had intended to go away for long, he did not take any of his belongings. His room was intact, his clothes were still there.
Police discover Tim took something with him that at the time seemed normal for him to bring to work, along with his wallet, keys, and cell phone.
We understand that he took the silver briefcase. It's believed that there were writings in that briefcase, which is something that he always carries.
According to investigators, after Tim calls his supervisor around 9 that morning, all outbound activity from his cell phone stops. On Wednesday, September 29th, the day after Tim vanishes, a clue appears.
We received information that somebody had found a wallet.
A patron at the Lyndhurst Diner spots Tim's wallet in the eatery's parking lot. The restaurant is on Route 23, halfway between Tim's apartment and his office. Police learn from the diner's employees that someone matching Tim's description used to eat breakfast there often. Unfortunately, by the time police received the tip about Tim's wallet, it has already been sitting at the diner for several days.
When the wallet was found, they called the phone number that was in his wallet, and his roommate obtained the message, but the message didn't get to the police that day. The police didn't find out about the wallet for quite some time. They could have questioned people a lot sooner instead of quite a few days after.
Police canvass the area around the diner, but find no leads. The wallet still contains Tim's credit cards, leading police to believe this was not a robbery. What's missing also doesn't suggest foul play to Al Schumann, a private investigator hired by the Carney family 6 months after Tim disappears.
Curiously, what was missing from the wallet was nothing except his driver's license and his college identification card.
Since nothing valuable is missing from Tim's wallet, investigators now reason that he may have left it there himself. If so, they need to find out why. Because Tim is an adult, his case centers on one concern. Did he vanish of his own free will, or has he been abducted?
If he chose to be missing on his own, if he just left and did not want to be found, then that in itself is not a crime. He's not a child. He doesn't have to report to his parents where he is.
Three days after Tim vanishes, there's a new development. In Newark, about 35 miles from Tim's home, construction workers discover an abandoned car. When police respond to the scene, they determine that the car belongs to Tim Carney.
When they found this car, we thought foul play. So we were very worried at this point that something terrible had happened to Tim, because they thought, well, maybe they found his body there also. And they said, no, it's just a car. There's no sign of Tim.
Once again, the investigation takes an unfortunate turn. By the time police get the call, it has been almost a week that Tim's car has been at the construction site.
That's where the city of Newark and the city of Elizabeth meet. No one was notified right away about the car because each township felt it was the other township's issue. So it had gone quite a few days without anybody contacting the police regarding it to even notice that, wow, that car belonged to somebody who was declared missing.
The construction site sits on a dirt road off the main highway. It's virtually unreachable by foot.
We didn't know what to think because, like, well, if his car's there, then how did he get out of the spot? It's in a remote spot. It was very far to walk to anywhere.
Investigators find little that indicates what may have happened to him.
It had been raining, and so any clues that there were there, whether it's footprints or whatever, were washed away.
No forensics other than his was retained from the vehicle. There was no sign of struggle. No evidence led any of the investigator officers to believe that there was foul play. It appears that the vehicle was just abandoned.
But detectives do notice one thing notably missing from Tim's car.
He always had this briefcase with him, and they didn't find it.
Since police find no sign of foul play from Tim's wallet or car, and the briefcase that had always been by his side is now missing, detectives believe that Tim may have disappeared intentionally. The discovery of Tim's car gives Tim's loved ones some hope, while also raising some unsettling questions.
Why would he ditch the car? I mean, all kinds of thoughts go through your head. It's like, did he get hurt? Did he walk somewhere? What's the next step? Where do you go? Where should we go look? Any bit of hope, you go running to it. You have hope that you'll find him.
Even though the car itself doesn't provide any leads, investigators do find one important clue. The construction site is right by Newark International Airport. Coming up, Tim's family suspects he may be in trouble.
He would never go this long without calling somebody and saying, I'm okay.
Mysterious signs of 25-year-old Tim Carney have been turning up after he disappears on Saturday, September 28, 2004. Tim's wallet is spotted in a parking lot the next day. Then, police find his car in a remote location about 35 miles from his home. There are no signs of foul play, but they do notice that his briefcase is missing. His briefcase, containing his writing, was the one item Tim was known to always keep with him. Since Tim's car is abandoned near Newark International Airport, police reason he may have boarded a flight. Tim's father, Ed Carney, believes that his son could have headed to Canada.
We thought he might have gone to Canada because he knows people in Canada. He speaks French fluently. He had 7 years of it in school.
At the time of Tim's disappearance, a driver's license was sufficient travel documentation for U.S. citizens to enter Canada. Since Tim's driver's license was missing from his wallet, it's possible he could have crossed the border. Phyllis Carney believes her son may have been looking for a way out of what they saw as the restrictive life he led as a member of the Gospel Outreach Church.
If Tim was going to leave the church, I don't think he would have told us. And so I think he might have thought in order to leave the church, this was the way to do it. The pressure might have just gotten to him.
Initially, Tim's family wants to believe their only son will soon return.
We thought maybe he's got to clear his head and then we'll see him again.
But as the days stretch on, the Carneys also find something troubling in Tim's disappearance. Even if he left of his own free will, they wonder if something may have happened to him.
I just know my brother enough to know that he would never do this to my parents. I mean, we're a pretty close family. He would never go this long without calling somebody in our family and saying, I'm okay.
Ed Carney speaks to Pastor Jim Lethbridge soon after Tim goes missing. Just days later, members of his church and Lethbridge leave for a weekend retreat.
And he told me when they come back, he'll give me the full support of him and the church and looking for Tim. I thought it was odd that they all decided to go away for a weekend and not help me find Tim.
Rick Ross has seen this response to a disappearance with other religious groups.
When there's a group and it's very small, like the Lethbridge group, which has just a handful of members really, and someone important like Tim Carney leaves, who everyone regarded as at one time a loyal and devoted member, it creates doubts in the group. So in order to get a handle on that, a leader may sequester the group and go into a kind of retreat where he or she can then spin the departure of the valued group member for damage control.
Once Gospel Outreach members return from the retreat, the Carneys hope for their support in the search effort.
I specifically called Pastor Lethbridge to request his assistance, and he just was unavailable. He couldn't be bothered.
They might have known if he was depressed. He was with them more than he was with us. Any one of them could have helped us, but nobody talked to us, nobody called. And that's more disappointing than anything, that nobody wanted to help us.
After private investigator Al Schumann also reaches out to Gospel Outreach members, he says he gets minimal cooperation.
The church members were reluctant to speak. As a matter of fact, they were very curt and abrupt in response.
Then, Ed and Phyllis Carney speak to other parents of Gospel Outreach members. They report learning that Tim's congregation has a very different understanding of his disappearance.
And I was shocked to find out that they're told that Tim's okay.
According to the Carneys, Jim Lethbridge has given his congregation a disturbing account of Tim's disappearance, that Tim is not missing at all, and that his parents know his whereabouts.
He told them we kidnapped our own son.
He just feels that my parents have done something with him and that, you know, we're hiding him. We're certainly not hiding him. We're trying to bring him home.
Still pursuing the theory that Tim might have boarded a plane, investigators examine travel manifests in the hope of finding Tim's name on a flight out of Newark. Their search comes up empty, as do Al Schumann's inquiries with Canadian authorities.
I contacted the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. They said that at that point, border patrols had tightened to the point where they were almost certain that he could not have gone into Canada from the United States without being detected.
But investigators realized that Tim could have found a way to make himself nearly invisible to anyone trying to track him. The search for Tim Carney might be targeting the wrong person.
He could have assumed a new identity due to his employment.
Tim's position at the state unemployment office put dozens of Social Security numbers within his reach, giving him the ability to create an entirely new identity. If Tim did assume another identity, it would be virtually impossible to track him among the thousands of passengers who travel daily through Newark Airport. Phyllis Carney suspects that with a new identity, Tim could easily avoid detection.
He's a very average-looking guy. I mean, he doesn't have blue hair.
Is it possible that Tim, the amateur mystery writer, could have created the ultimate whodunit?
It's like it's a mystery novel without the ending.
Coming up, Tim may be closer to home than his family realizes. 25-year-old Tim Carney has gone missing. According to his family, he may have wanted to escape his life in the Gospel Outreach Church, a congregation the Carneys saw as isolating and controlling. Tim's family hears that Gospel Outreach pastor Jim Lethbridge has told his members that Tim has not disappeared at all, and that his parents know where he is. Since Tim had access to countless Social Security numbers through his job at the unemployment office, investigators consider the possibility that he could be traveling under a different identity. Police get a lead that heats up the local search again. Since his disappearance, investigators have been monitoring Tim's bank account and credit cards. For 3 days, the accounts have shown no activity. But suddenly, on the 4th day after Tim goes missing, bank surveillance images reveal a man accessing Tim's checking account.
On October 2nd, there was an image taken of a male party withdrawing money from his account. He's wearing a baseball cap. The baseball cap was pulled down very low over his eyes so that you could not see who the individual was. Clearly, the individual is trying to hide themselves from the camera.
The bank is located about 7 miles from the construction site where Tim's car is found abandoned, and about 24 miles from his usual branch. The man in the surveillance image hands the teller a withdrawal slip in the amount of $1,000, just $100 short of the entire balance in Tim's account. When police interview the bank teller, she reports a curious observation. The person making the transaction had a red, splotchy rash all over his hands.
I knew it was him. He had psoriasis starting in high school. I could tell it was him. I could tell it by his hands.
According to his parents, Tim's psoriasis tended to flare up at specific times.
Stress plays a role in it, so that would be something that would tell us that it was Tim.
Detectives show the bank teller photos of Tim, and she identifies him as the man who made the withdrawal. Upon inspecting the withdrawal slip, police discovered that it includes Tim's driver's license number as proof of ID. The evidence confirms investigators' belief that it was Tim making the transaction. When authorities check the bank's surveillance images, there is nothing that suggests Tim was being forced to make the withdrawal.
The individual who was there did not appear to be under duress.
But Tim's sister Megan isn't convinced that the man believed to be Tim was acting alone.
There was no parking lot shots to see if he was by himself or with somebody else.
Without his car, it would have taken Tim over 2 hours to walk from the construction site near Newark Airport to the bank. Investigators believe someone may be driving him around. But the question remains, even if Tim is with someone, is he in trouble? Authorities examine Tim's financial history for clues to his disappearance. What they find surprises even those closest to him. Tim had approximately $20,000 in credit card debt, a huge sum for anyone, particularly a civil servant making around $35,000 per year.
He did not have a lavish lifestyle. He lived in a local apartment complex. He drove a basic car.
Oh, we figured he was doing okay. He's got a decent job. He's making a living. He was making ends meet.
Tim was the last person his family would expect to be in debt.
My brother was always good at saving. If he wanted a computer, my parents wouldn't buy it for him. He was always really good about saving to get whatever he wanted. He always had money. He always had some type of emergency fund.
But when authorities investigate his work life, they learn that Tim often borrowed money from his coworkers.
Sometimes he didn't even have the 70 cents tolls to go home with. You know, he'd have to borrow that. He'd borrow money for lunch.
Tim's family suspects that his involvement with gospel outreach may have been a factor in Tim's large debt.
When he joined Gospel Outreach, we started to notice that he didn't have as much money as he did before.
According to police, Gospel Outreach informed them that as a nonprofit organization, it collects annual dues that total about 10% of each member's yearly income. The Carneys believe Tim may have felt pressured to give Gospel Outreach more than just 10%.
He was giving a lot to the church. He got a part-time job also on top of his full-time job.
We didn't realize the income that he had, it just wasn't enough to live on after all that he was giving to the church.
I do believe that he may have had to pay using credit card debt and things like that to remain a part of this congregation.
According to Tim's family, the impact of his contributions to the church was evident.
I just remember a conversation with my mother and my brother. My mother telling him that, you know, he needed new shoes. And I remember my brother getting upset and telling her that you're expected to give 10% or more than 10%. 10% seemed to be the minimum that they were expected to give to Gospel Outreach and Pastor Lethbridge.
Still, investigators have no way of knowing whether finances, church-related or otherwise, play any role in Tim's disappearance. With no new information, the search for Tim Carney begins to look bleak.
What makes it disturbing is you have a whole lot of questions, but we don't really have any answers, nor do we have a way to find those answers because there are no leads.
Coming up, witnesses say they've seen Tim. But is it him? And is he in danger?
He seemed very tense and very nervous.
25-year-old Tim Carney has always loved mystery novels. And after vanishing on September 28, 2004, some evidence suggests that Tim may have written himself into a mystery of his own creation. Police find Tim's wallet and car within 1 week of his disappearance. They establish that neither the wallet nor his car show signs of foul play. Then, a man looking like Tim appears on bank surveillance footage, withdrawing nearly all the money in Tim's checking account. With hopes that Tim might still be nearby, the Carney family works tirelessly to find him.
I was passing out flyers, various businesses and restaurants along Route 23, the corridor where Tim would drive his car to and from work.
About 3 weeks after Tim disappears, the flyers pay off. On October 21st, police receive a call from employees at the Terminal 1 bar. It's about a 10-minute drive from Newark Airport and the construction site where Tim's car was abandoned. They report that somebody matching Tim's description has been seen at the bar in recent weeks. Ignacio Pinto, the owner of Terminal 1 bar, remembers the man on the flyer specifically for what he didn't do.
He never consumed any alcohol, which is one of the reasons that it stood out to me. I mean, being the owner, I'm looking for people to always be drinking. He drank water every time.
Apparently, he also drew attention for being an unusually reserved bar patron.
What I remember about him the most is really the look in his eyes. Like he had a lot of inner turmoil and he had a lot of stuff that he was just, you know, in his mind that he was thinking about. I mean, most people come to a bar, they come to sort of, you know, let loose, and he was anything but that. His look, his energy was saying, leave me alone. He seemed very tense and very nervous.
If this was Tim, he didn't seem to be a man on the run.
He didn't look like somebody that was homeless. He was fairly well dressed. He wasn't dirty in any way, but he was always dressed the same. A pair of slacks and a buttoned shirt. Sort of office wear. Looking back now, I think he was just killing time more so than anything. I think he probably didn't have any other place to go to, and this was sort of a place for him to spend some time.
Ignacio recalls clearly the last time the Terminal 1 bar had a visit from the man he identifies from the flyer.
We had a problem with him, which I believe was the last time that we saw him here.
After keeping to himself for about 2 weeks, the normally quiet customer shows a sudden change in attitude toward a female bartender when he accuses her of stealing his wallet.
He caused a ruckus because the bartender said, you know, look, you gonna buy a drink or not? And then he accused the bartender of stealing his wallet and just making a scene at the bar.
My bartender wanted him thrown out because he was rude, it said something that was inappropriate, and he tried to reach and grab her. We just asked him to leave, he left, and he didn't really put up a fight. He just took off, and we never saw him after that.
The report of this incident leaves the Carney family concerned about Tim.
He's not a confrontational person. He didn't like fighting with his sister. He didn't like fighting with anyone.
That's not the Tim that we know. I don't know if he was doing that to bring attention to himself, that he wanted to be found.
With the unusual sightings of Tim, the Carneys considered the frightening thought that perhaps he might not be able to find his way home.
We were thinking at that point he might have hit his head. Maybe he didn't know who he was. We went everywhere we could think of, because if something did happen and he didn't know who he was, I'm sure your whole personality changes.
The Carneys continue their search, hoping Tim might still be within reach.
We gathered a team, and every day, every night, there were teams working on different things. One team would go out to homeless shelters or hospitals or supermarkets to put up flyers, and others would go to just local businesses and just people on the street.
Ed Carney believes that despite Tim's education and intellectual strengths, he would be no match for a life on the streets.
He's not streetwise. He would be taken advantage of so easily. If he had to live on the streets, I just don't see him surviving.
2 weeks after Tim Carney vanishes, his family must face a sad reality. Tim is really gone.
We went to go clean out his apartment because his lease, it was up. I think it was particularly difficult for my parents. My sister and I kept having to reassure them that everything would be okay. It was just stuff. It really didn't matter. What mattered is finding him and bringing him home, not how many shirts he had in his closet or what was on his coffee table.
10 months pass before a new development emerges in Tim's case. When private investigator Al Schumann is canvassing the area around the Terminal 1 bar, he uncovers a lead. Employees at a deli near the bar say they spotted Tim 2 to 3 months earlier, in the spring after his disappearance.
That particular deli was a real find. They definitely identified him by his photographs. He frequented that place 2 or 3 times.
The man usually bought a soda. It's another purchase that makes Al confident this could be Tim.
He bought a phone card, which would explain no further cell phone calls from or to anyone.
However, further searches of the area come up empty. The investigation hits a wall.
Unfortunately, there are so many variables of what could have happened to him, although I think that he has chosen his own destiny. And that is why we do not have any lead information to find him. Being a mother, I imagine it is probably one of the most difficult things that this family has had to deal with, not knowing what happened to their son. One way or the other, the family needs some type of closure to move on with their own lives.
Since the week of Tim's disappearance that autumn in 2004, the Carneys never hear from Pastor Lethbridge or any other members of Gospel Outreach. Still, upon investigation, detectives find no connection between Gospel Outreach and Tim's disappearance. Both Pastor Lethbridge and Gospel Outreach have denied that their congregation practices excessive control or financial impropriety.
None of their actions are a crime. Our investigation never led us to believe that any part of the congregation was party to Mr. Carney being missing. In itself, being part of a religious group is not a crime. What they teach is not a crime, and people have a right to choose what they want to believe in.
As the weeks turn into months and then years, Tim's family hopes he is still safe somewhere, but wrestle with the possibility that they may never see their would-be writer son again.
Never did we dream that it would be going on 6 years.
It's the little things that you really miss the most. It's waking up on Christmas and not being together as a family. Seeing all of our stockings come off the fireplace and his just there.
Every single day is hard, but you know, you just have to get up. You have to go to work. There's just stuff that you have to do. You don't want to do it. You want to stay under the covers and hide, but you can't. I hope he's well.